Boy,
And I'm Michelle Zuby.
and we are joined here with Jasmine Dellafosse, who is a member of Gathering for Justice, which is one of our not for profit organizations, one of the three not for profit organizations where the proceeds of the royalties are going to be divided. So, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to hear a little bit more about you and Gathering for Justice and what you guys stand for.
Well, thank you so much for having us. And I'm really excited to share a little bit about our work and to get into this conversation with you both. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit about your involvement? How did you get started with Gathering for Justice?
So I first began getting involved with the gathering. I've learned of their work many, many years ago. And through actually a mentor of mine, I was able to learn a little bit more about the gathering more intentionally. I began my work as a young youth organizer here in Stockton, California, where I was really mobilizing young people around educational equity, juvenile justice, youth justice, criminal justice work. And then in 2018, I decided to take a leap of faith and leave an organization that I co-founded to serve with the Gathering for Justice. I really believed in their mission. Um, and so I've been serving as the senior regional organizer with the Gathering for Justice. And I am working in communities like San Joaquin County, Ventura County, and Santa Cruz County, really on this campaign to end youth and child incarceration, and really defining alternatives to incarceration, and closing youth prisons essentially across California. And since my involvement with many organizations and leaders across the entire state, in really decades of work, we've been able to finally, this July, shut down youth prisons, thanks to a lot of the organizing efforts happening here in California. So lots of good work happening here. Yeah. Um, I was going to share a little bit more of the organization, but I will uh, I'll pause to see if there's any other questions so far.
No, absolutely. That's incredible what you've been able to do so far. You did mention, though, you left another organization to come to the gathering. So, what was it about their mission, or what is their mission for those who don't know? And what was it about that mission that drew you to the organization?
Yeah, the mission was really simple. The mission was for the gathering was to end youth and child incarceration and to eliminate racial inequities that permeate the justice system. And I think for me, as a young person who grew up really at the intersections of incarceration, being impacted by the juvenile justice system, having gone through it and having to navigate it myself, having school police on campus, having to go through the juvenile justice system, I recognized there was a lot of sort of disparities and gaps when it came to folks who really focused on this issue area. Um, and I also just really believed in the legacy of Mr. Harry Belafonte and Carmen Perez Jordan, who, has been our CEO and leader of this organization. I mean, they have done tremendous work, and they didn't just jump into this work, out of nowhere and said, we're going to do this. They've really been deeply committed to being grounded in the principles of Kingian nonviolence, being grounded and centering the work with those who are really directly impacted. And that's what really pushed me to say, this is where I want to be. Because I think at the root of everything is it's really important that we build with people, and build with those who are, again, least helped, but most impacted. And I think that's what our organization does really at the center of it all.
It's amazing and such value. With that being said, like there are huge barriers, and we have many chapters. One on income inequality, another one on the correction facilities. There's so many barriers that permeate the systemic problems of the system. Problems such as resources, problems such as systemic racism. What are some of the ways that Gathering for Justice combat some of those barriers to really support inclusivity and success for all?
Yeah. The gathering, where I think, one thing about the gathering is that the gathering brings together both, juvenile and criminal justice experts, advocates, artists, individuals who really experienced and been impacted by incarceration directly. So, when it came to what we were doing, we knew that we were building an agenda together to sustain Black and Brown liberation. And we really work, we have a state-based task force called Justice League California, Justice League NYC. And through these efforts, we've been able to ground ourselves really in the ideology of Dr. King when he talks about the beloved community. A lot of our work is really rooted in that framework and the principles of King and nonviolence. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but of the principles of nonviolence, we know that that one, we believe that the universe is on the side of justice, so that all of these issues we know intersect. And one of the things that we try to do is really to keep our eyes on the prize around advancing racial equity, around advancing inequalities that are happening amongst these different issues. We know we have a very I guess unique way we connect folks. It's very intergenerational. We really believe that in order for us to thrive and drive change in our organization, is that we must engage every single part of our community, from our elders to our young people to our children, and everything in between. And so we have a very intergenerational, intercultural way of organizing our leadership. And so I think that that's sort of how we ground ourselves, between this work and that's how we essentially are able to center our work. I kind of went off of the topic, so I don't know if I answered it completely, but I was just trying to get back to, we believe that we are the experts of our own communities, and that young people and our elders and those who are experiences know the answer, know the way, and we just continue to build off of their leadership and ours to guide our work.
That's so incredibly valuable and important. Can you describe or kind of paint the picture as to what financial support would mean for Gathering for Justice?
Yeah, I mean, your support, and really anyone's support to our organization, is continuing this legacy of not just Mr. Harry Belafonte, but really of the movement of the civil rights leaders and organizers who historically paved the way for so many of us. I think by investing in our work, we recognize that when you invest in people, we know that that's the greatest investment we can do really in this movement. So by doing that, you help us continue to center the voices of people who've been directly impacted by state violence, and we continue to support and invest in their leadership. By also supporting our work, it allows us to, continue our transformative initiatives, that's through the intersections of cultural organizing, convening people across generations and differences. It will allow us to continue to organize our smart, rapid response initiatives for breaking events and issues that directly need us to advocate around, both for policy change and for, voices to be heard who oftentimes aren't heard. We're continuing our work. And so by doing that, you allow us to be able to build out our task force, which is based with volunteers, and then and it will allow us to continue to move and build our efforts and provide toolkits and resources and models of organizing support for folks who continue to support our work. And that's just a little bit of it, but essentially that's really at the root of what your support and investment can do within our work. There's so much ways this can support our work.
I absolutely love what you're doing. It's absolutely incredible. What's Gathering for Justice vision? Kind of potentially, if everything kind of is built out, what world could potentially be created by the initiatives that Gathering for Justice is taking on?
That's a loaded question. I would say, I think it's really a place where we all see each other for who we are. And I think that it's the beloved community that, that we talk about. I think it's really one of dignity, one of justice, and one of liberation. And I think that that's really what it would look like to me, is young people not incarcerated or in chains, but young people getting the actual resources, tools, and opportunities to heal. I think it looks like us, addressing safety differently. And I think it means that we are able to invest in counselors in schools and mental health services and behavioral health services for students. I think it looks like young people not being able to have to look over their shoulders in their neighborhood or their blocks just because they're worried about something happening. I think that, one day, Mr. Harry Belafonte talks about, the promised land, and that he thought he would have seen the promised land in his work, but he's passed on the baton in hopes that we continue to one day hopefully see what that promised land looks like. But it's one, that looks like the beloved community, that's filled with resources, that's filled with access and opportunity and equity and equality. I think that there's just room for everyone to grow. One of the things that Carmen, our CEO and president, often says is that there's a lane for everybody. There's enough resources and tools and, food available for everybody, that if we all have our garden, we all have enough to share with one another. And I think that at the root of that, we recognize that we've been in a scarcity sort of society for a very long time. And we've been trained and taught that there's not enough for everything. There's not enough for everyone, and we won't thrive. But we really believe there's a world that there's enough for everybody, and that if we take care of our neighbors by doing the simplest of things, that our world could be a much better place by doing that. So a little cheesy, but I believe that to be true, and I believe it to happen one day.
To kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying, about having people come together and work together, not coming from a place of lack or scarcity. I think that there are people who want to get involved and want to contribute, but may not necessarily know how, or may not even be aware of the organization. So, what are some ways that people can get involved on more of a grassroots level, I guess you could say?
Yeah. I think I mentioned it a little earlier. Carmen, our president CEO, she says that there's a lane for everybody. And really, I think that it's not everyone has to be at the front of the protest. Not everyone has to be at the march. But in order for that protest or action to happen, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. It's like, are you logistically good at putting together an event? We need you. We always tell people when we get in spaces, how many of you have planned a birthday party? And I'm assuming maybe you both, Jacob and Michelle, have planned a birthday party, right? So yeah, so like essentially you're an organizer, right? You know everything you need. You gotta get together, the balloons, who's gonna get the cake, who's gonna get the food, who's gonna get the decorations, who's gonna invite people, who's gonna get the gift, who's gonna sing the song, right? And it's like not one person can do it all. And I think that it's for everyone who's listening, it's just find what you're most passionate about. I had the great honor and pleasure of meeting one of the civil rights leaders, and I'll wait for this to pass by. Her name is a freedom rider. She was based here in LA by the name of Robert and Helen Singleton. And Helen Singleton came to Stockton, and we had a conversation, and she told me, what keeps me up at night? What makes me angry? What is driving me sort of crazy? What am I thinking about? What's always on my heart? And she says, and whatever that is, work towards that. Do what that is. And that's when you will sort of find your purpose and alignment. And I think that if just first for people, I guess, is one, what is your purpose? What do you have to offer? What is it that you're passionate about? And figure out where to get involved. And those who are just learning about maybe grassroots organizing, there are a great, books and leaders from Black women, queer and trans folks who, and many just Black and brown organizers who've put together lots of toolkits and stuff. Hopefully I can share that with you a little bit later. around books to read, to learn about organizing, to just game yourself up. And then for us personally, I guess shameless plug is just follow us on our social media, with the Gathering for Justice. We're oftentimes posting about different actions, to call your legislators, or to, invite, someone to come out. I think that there's so many ways people can get involved by doing that. And yeah, I mean, I would just say find a lane for you, like whatever it is, even if it just means you giving $5 a month to an organization that's contributing, whether it be you reading a book and talking to your family every night about an issue. Maybe it's equity, maybe it's racial equity the next week, and just continuing to have these conversations, in your circles, I think will help the work begin to build, bigger and bigger. Yeah.
No, that's super helpful. And this has come up a lot in the conversations that we've had. And I'm like a broken record at this point, but I think, again, people, have this go big or go home mentality, where you have to do something really outrageous in order to make a difference. And it could just be, I love the way you capture that and just kind of like find your lane. Like if there's something you're good at, donate your time to do that particular thing, or if it's $5 a month, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The smallest acts, right, like build
Yeah.
upon each other. And you so eloquently put that, like I think just laid it out for people to really just like grasp onto. And I think that's really helpful. Even us with the text, like this was just one way that we could contribute to an issue that's much larger than us, or
Thank you.
40 some odd chapters, but it was a step in the right direction. So I hope that people are inspired, to take these small steps, which can lead to something bigger ultimately.
Yeah. And I'll just really quickly say, Mr. Harry Belafonte, our founder of our organization, he is a great example of what it means to support this work in this movement. He had a platform, right? He knew that he had a platform to share, and he decided to, bring in Dr. King, bring in, so many other leaders in the civil rights movement, and say, hey, I have a platform. And he was the one who single-handedly basically paid for the civil rights movement. He kept it alive. He funded the movement. And he knew that his responsibility, that he wasn't going to be on the front lines, organizing the protests, but he knew he had a platform to share. And I think Mr. B is really the example that we all try to lead in our organization, in our work, about opening up space and giving young people the platform to lead and organize, to elevate their leadership. And Carmen Perez does an amazing job at always elevating young voices, our elders, and grounding us completely. So yeah, I just wanted to say that as well. So incredibly important.
Thank you so much. This is invaluable. I learned so much. I am so impressed. The work that you're doing is massive. It's a massive impact, and it's far-reaching, and it's necessary. In order, otherwise, like we're not going to get to the promised land. And I think that's a place where everybody wants to be, but it's not going to just happen. But I like what you had said, like kind of the world seeks out justice, and I agree. And I think we need to move towards that, and like kind of share ideas, share resources, just share ourselves. Right. I learned I'm an organizer. So I can kind of
right. Yeah, we always say, to our people, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. That we have to, Mr. B has been doing this for years. He's about to turn 94 years old the end of this month, and it's like we have to remember that it's a marathon. We got to pace ourselves, and we got to take care of our people. We got to heal at the same time, and make sure that we have all those resources wrapped around all of us while we continue to do this work.
We are way over what we promised we would. So thank you so much for giving us this extra time.
Yeah, no,
Very grateful.
Yeah, we're extremely grateful. Thank you all. And if there's anything else you need or links, please let us know. I'll
Yeah,
try to get
please
them to you.
share, and then we'll make sure that everybody gets it when we post
Okay.
this interview.
Well, we'll
And
be
we'll make sure that
releasing
everyone follows.
sorry. I missed that. I cut you off. My
Oh
bad.
no, I'm excited. I want everybody to be following the great work of Gathering for Justice. And again, like Michelle had said, I think you really break it down so that people that feel overwhelmed because your mission, your vision is overwhelming. You're really breaking it down so that like even like what may feel like a small step, $5 donation, helping organize this, reposting something like
Yeah.
that could be monumental.
Yeah.
Um, so like kind of like thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. The gathering is grateful, and we hope to continue to stay involved. We have a fellowship coming out soon where we'll be recruiting 16 fellows across the country, 5 in New York, about 6 in California, and 5 across the rest of the state. So if you're a young person looking to organize or get involved, we have some great fellowships happening in the next few weeks. So feel free to apply. It's going to be great, and continue to follow our work, I guess, at Gathering for Justice on our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and our website at gatheringforjustice.org. So thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh no, we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.